From manipulating reality in his friends' dreams to causing chaos they'll never forget, these episodes highlight the absolute worst behavior from our favorite characters, proving that even the nicest sponge has limits. We're starting off with Sleepy Time, where it is SpongeBob's unofficial debut as Bikini Bottom's biggest sleep-deprived menace. The episode starts with our spongy boy snoozing away, only to astral project himself out of bed and barge into the subconscious of everyone he knows. His first stop? Gary's dream. Turns out Gary's not the lovable simpleton we thought. He's a humanoid intellectual in a sprawling library. Who knew Gary had the vibe of a college professor lecturing on obscure poetry? SpongeBob hops into Patrick's dream next, which is literally just him riding a kitty coin-op horse in the middle of nothingness. It's as bleak as it is oddly on brand for Patrick. SpongeBob dips, and Patrick spends the rest of the episode trying to retrieve a quarter from a sewer. High stakes for him, low stakes for the rest of us. Next, SpongeBob jumps into Squidward's dream, which is Squidward's ultimate fantasy. And SpongeBob ruins it by becoming a clarinet and screeching out music that somehow wins over the audience. Squidward banished to the fruit cart in humiliation. If Squidward didn't already resent SpongeBob with every fiber of his being, this sealed the deal. Sandy's dream involves free falling from the heavens to land on a target. What could possibly go wrong? Apparently, everything. SpongeBob misunderstands Sandy, ends up with her in a truck full of clam manure. Her trust issues are bloody well justified now. In what might be SpongeBob's most deliberately intrusive stop, he enters Pearl's pink and frilly tea party dream, immediately bails, and heads straight to Mr. Krabs' dream.
Bye!
Krabs is fishing for money. It's capitalism meets Freudian analysis as SpongeBob helps him catch a Moby dollar-sized fish, only for it to escape because Krabs yeets SpongeBob out of his dream with a harpoon gun. Honestly, fair. SpongeBob crash lands into Plankton's nightmare, where Plankton is a kaiju-sized villain wreaking havoc on Bikini Bottom. This dream's so bloody on the nose it might as well come with a Chum Bucket logo. SpongeBob eventually takes him down by turning into a literal pushpin, popping him like a balloon, and leaving him to be trampled by angry citizens. Freud would love this SpongeBob finally retreats to his own dream, but karma's waiting. Yep, every victim of his dream-hopping antics appears in a mob demanding he stay out of their subconscious forever. Honestly, I've never been more on their side. Patrick, of course, misses the point entirely and asks if anyone has a quarter.
Does anyone have a quarter?
Typical. So, SpongeBob's criminal spree? Invasion of privacy, jumping into people's dreams without consent? That's a big nope. If Bikini Bottom had a dream court, SpongeBob would be drowning in lawsuits. Disturbing the peace. From derailing Squidward's fantasy concert to ruining Mr. Krabs' big catch, SpongeBob causes chaos everywhere he went. Patrick's passive pandemonium. Conspiracy to disturb the peace. Patrick's dreamland cluelessness may have been harmless, but his ongoing quest for that quarter ensured residual chaos. Sandy's misguided trust? Negligence, sort of. While Sandy's manure landing is her own fault, letting SpongeBob distract her mid-dive wasn't her brightest move. Sentencing highlights? SpongeBob fines for emotional damages to his friends, $3,000 minimum. He also needs a crash course on boundaries. Patrick, let him pay for a new coin-op ride and call it a day. Sandy, no charges, but maybe she should start meditating to tune SpongeBob out. This episode is a surreal blend of whimsy and straight-up psychological warfare. It's hilarious, yes, but let's not pretend SpongeBob's dream hopping wasn't low-key villainous. And while Patrick's quarter obsession provides comic relief, we're left with one burning question. Is any Bikini Bottomite truly safe from SpongeBob's midnight mischief? Nope. Just when you thought the chaos couldn't get more shameless, along comes Krabby Land. It's Mr. Krabs at his greediest, turning a playground into a capitalist trap for kids who deserve so much better. It's the first day of summer, and SpongeBob is thrilled for sunshine and good vibes.
That's the best cup of French toast I've ever had!
Meanwhile, Krabs is busy plotting how to exploit kids and their vacation money. His master plan? Jack up the price of kiddie meals from $1.99 to $4.99, a classic move from the Krabs playbook. Also, is anyone else as creeped out as I am about how easily Krabs sits our spongy boy on his lap like a creepy uncle and brainwashes his summer ideas? Yikes. Anyway, when he realizes all the kids are flocking to a shiny new playground instead of the Krusty Krab, Krabs cooks up his next scam.
No!
But calling it a playground is generous. This DIY disaster is held together by duct tape, good intentions, barely, and possibly a prayer or two. Yeah, it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. The kids are visibly unimpressed, but Krabs dangles the ultimate bait, a chance to meet Krabby the Clown. Of course, there's a catch. They've got to fill out a coloring book, aka a liability waiver. He then orders SpongeBob to distract the kids while he counts his ill-gotten gains in the back. Our Spongy Boy tries his best as a Krabby Patty burglar, but the kids only start laughing when he unintentionally injures himself. SpongeBob takes one for the team and turns the act into a full-on self-harm circus, even hiring thugs to bloody beat him up. But when SpongeBob is down to nubs and can't stall any longer, Krabs reluctantly sends the kids inside for the big reveal. And what do they get for their $5? This crap. Mr. Krabs wearing a tomato nose and tie doing a low-budget Krabby the Clown impression. That's it. Unsurprisingly, this pushes the kids and SpongeBob over the edge. SpongeBob finally calls him out as Cheapy the Cheapskate, which frankly should go on his business cards.
All I saw out there was Cheapy the Cheapskate.
Mr. Krabs doesn't even try to deny it, admitting he's only in it for the cash and openly mocking the kids for being scammed. But karma's got a quick turnaround in this episode, and it's a bitch. The kids overhear his confession, form an angry mob, and beat him into next week. Meanwhile, they redistribute the stolen money like little summer vacation Robin Hoods. As for Mr. Krabs, he ends the episode tied to 4 posts, begging for mercy while the kids deliver their final punishment, a truckload of lima beans. Mr. Krabs' actions in Krabby Land are about as ethical as a wet floor sign on a broken escalator. Here's how his antics stack up legally. Fraud. Mr. Krabs knowingly advertised a fake amusement park and tricked customers into spending money on it. Potential sentence: a misdemeanor fraud could land him fines of $1,000 to $5,000 and community service. Endangerment. The rickety homemade playground was clearly unsafe for children and could have caused injuries. Potential sentence: negligent endangerment charges carry fines of up to $2,500 with probation or more community service. Exploitation of minors. Exploiting SpongeBob's loyalty by making him endure physical harm for entertainment is shady at best, criminal at worst. Potential sentence: civil fines or even labor-related investigations, depending on Bikini Bottom's laws. Disturbing the peace. The chaos caused by the shoddy amusement park and angry mob likely disrupted Bikini Bottom's calm. Potential sentence: fines between $500 and $2,500 for creating such a public spectacle. Summary of charges and fines: fraud $5,000, endangerment $2,500, exploitation of minors varies, disturbing the peace $2,500, total possible fines $10,000 plus. Add in the lima bean torture and Mr. Krabs might finally learn that sometimes being a cheapskate isn't worth it. Then again, this is Krabs. He'll probably try to sell the lima beans back to the kids. After Mr. Krabs exploited children in Krabby Land, it's only fair we move on to SpongeBob and Patrick exploiting themselves. In Sunbleached, they take crossing the line to a sunburned extreme, literally. The chaos begins when Craig Mamelton, the most intensely tanned sea mammal on TV, graces Bikini Bottom's beach with his golden presence to announce a summer bash.
Look at those gorgeous wrinkles.
What? These?
But here's the catch. No tan, no party. Craig singles out SpongeBob and Patrick as the pastiest losers on the sand, comparing their smooth skin to a freshly bleached sheet. Their crime? Having the audacity to enjoy the beach without achieving tan minimum. Patrick, determined to fix their pale predicament, converts his house into a DIY tanning salon. Patrick emerges with a magazine-worthy glow that could rival Craig himself. Then it's SpongeBob's turn. Unfortunately, Patrick has the attention span of, goldfish, and promptly forgets about his friend for 2 hours while he flirts with some random girls. This isn't gonna end well. By the time Patrick remembers our Spongy Boy exists, he's not tan, he's sun-bleached. And I'm not talking golden glow, I mean dehydrated sponge that's seen better days bleached. Our Spongy Boy is literally falling apart. Feeling guilty, Patrick vows to help SpongeBob get party ready. What follows is a montage of increasingly deranged makeovers, including mud masks, kelp jerky teeth, and armpit hair extensions. This walking monstrosity frightens a mother into attacking him in broad daylight, but hey, at least Patrick is trying. Eventually, Patrick gets inspired while devouring a caramel sundae. And somehow, the caramel fake tan works. They strut into the party like kings, blending in with the overly bronzed crowd. But there's a catch, because of course there bloody is. The caramel hardens under the tanning lamps. Now, you'd think this would end with SpongeBob being mocked out of existence, but no. Craig Mamilton, tanning god extraordinaire, declares that sun-bleached skin is the pinnacle of tan culture.
It's the ultimate tan. He's sun-bleached.
SpongeBob is hailed as a hero. The party cranks the tanning lamps to maximum sun bleach. Yep, you saw it. They all turn to dust. This party ends with every attendee literally drying up and disintegrating. Crimes committed by SpongeBob and Patrick. Public disturbance. The monster makeover rampage through town definitely counts as disturbing the peace. If traumatizing mothers and children isn't a crime, it should be. Fraud. SpongeBob and Patrick literally fake tan credentials to sneak into the party. Sure, it's caramel instead of counterfeit cash, but deceit is deceit. Endangerment. Patrick's neglect in leaving SpongeBob in the tanning machine for 2 hours resulted in his near mummification. Throw in the party-induced dust apocalypse and we're looking at reckless endangerment of an entire population. Public sentences? Public disturbance, fines ranging from $500 to $2,500 each, and some community service hours for terrorizing the good citizens of Bikini Bottom. Fraud, a misdemeanor fine of $1,000 for the Caramel Con. Endangerment, Patrick's tanning machine and Craig's tanning lamps might lead to a hefty lawsuit. Fines up to $5,000 and some serious community service, assuming no one presses charges for turning into dust, if they're even bloody alive still. In true Bikini Bottom fashion, the moral of the story seems to be, don't try too hard to fit in, because the standard of cool might kill you, or turn you into caramel-coated rubble. If you thought SpongeBob and Patrick couldn't top their bad ideas, Hooky says, hold my fishing line. It's a deep dive into recklessness, where crossing the line means playing chicken with a fishhook. It starts with Mr. Krabs in full-on crisis mode. Yep, the hooks are gnarly bastards. But does SpongeBob give a damn? Hell nope! Enter Patrick, the ultimate enabler, who spins these deadly hooks into some twisted carnival ride. The carnival is literally marked with hooks, and all the red flags you'd ever need to stay away. But SpongeBob and Patrick charge right in, breaking every rule in Mr. Krabs' Seafood Survival Handbook. Yes, Patrick, that looks bloody dangerous as hell. How does it not look dangerous? Then comes reckless endangerment. Patrick's hook games involve getting yanked to the surface and narrowly avoiding becoming a fish stick. Peer pressure, aka Patrick, reels him in, and soon they're both dancing with death for fun. Meanwhile, the Krusty Krab descends into chaos because SpongeBob ditched his post. Squidward's cooking disasters drive customers into a mob, and Krabs, he's livid. When Mr. Krabs finds SpongeBob and Patrick dangling from hooks like bait, he's got every reason to lose it. But here's the kicker in the booty: SpongeBob breaks his sailor's promise and ends up hooked, literally. The result? A humiliating public strip down at the Krusty Krab, leaving him half naked and fully ashamed. Krab, Squidward, and even Pearl conspire to teach our Spongy Boy a lesson, proving once and for all that hooks are no joke. Potential charges: trespassing, ignoring danger zones for fun, fines $100 to $500 each. Reckless endangerment, treating hooks like playground rides, penalty up to $2,500 each plus community service. Disturbing the peace, turning fishhook parks into a circus, another $500 to $2,500 fine each. Add it up, and SpongeBob and Patrick's hooky adventure could cost them thousands in fines, not to mention their dignity. And Patrick ending up in a tuna can? That's poetic justice. After narrowly escaping disaster, you'd think Bikini Bottom would chill out, but no. Big Pink Loser takes us into the cringeworthy territory of Patrick's existential crisis, complete with sabotage and chaos. It all kicks off when Patrick receives a trophy, only to realize it's actually SpongeBob's thanks to the giant nameplate he somehow missed.
But it's shiny!
Patrick's bubble pops even faster when he discovers SpongeBob has an entire closet full of awards, sending him on a mission to snag one of his own. Yeah, this is a decision Bikini Bottom is going to regret immediately. First crime, harassment. Poor SpongeBob just wants to help his friend, but Patrick's incompetence becomes a full-time job. He's eating the customers' orders, screaming at callers like an unhinged telemarketer.
Is this the Krusty Krab?
No! This is Patrick!
By the time a customer insults him for sweeping wrong, Patrick's one bad joke away from a full breakdown. As if that weren't enough, Patrick's rampage shifts into identity theft. Desperate for recognition, he decides the easiest path to success is becoming Spongebob. Literally. Yeah, this starfish is copying everything SpongeBob does, from his outfit to his mannerisms to painting his rock like SpongeBob's pineapple. Bikini Bottom citizens are convinced they're seeing double, and SpongeBob, he's done. SpongeBob dresses up as Patrick, which somehow just confirms Patrick's identity crisis. And then, the twist? Patrick finally gets his award for doing absolutely nothing longer than anyone else. Irony, perfectly seasoned. Realizing laziness was his true calling all along, Patrick drives back under his rock to protect his title, leaving SpongeBob and the rest of Bikini Bottom to recover from the absolute bloody disaster. Crimes committed? Identity theft. Patrick's SpongeBob cosplay and lifestyle theft could qualify as a low-level case. Fines $1,000 to $5,000 if SpongeBob presses charges. Harassment, invading SpongeBob's personal space and life, earns Patrick up to $2,500 in fines and maybe some mandatory personal boundaries classes. Disturbing the peace. Between botched Krusty Krab antics and full-on chaos in town, Patrick's antics could rack up another $500 to $2,500. Patrick's desire to win may have been innocent, but his execution was pure disaster. Thankfully, doing absolutely nothing suits him better, and Bikini Bottom gets some much-needed peace and quiet. Patrick was a walking disaster in Big Pink Loser, but Patrick's coupon takes it to the next level. All it takes is one coupon to plunge Bikini Bottom into chaos. Honestly, who even lets this guy shop? Patrick Starr's Day of the Coupon begins with a fight against a sea spider that ends in total humiliation. After being launched into a web and flung across his living room, Patrick lands on a life-changing discovery. Obviously, this sets off a chain reaction of absolute nonsense. Determined to use his coupon for good, Patrick finds SpongeBob and vows to treat him to ice cream. But when he sees SpongeBob already has one, Patrick throws it to the ground like a toddler, insisting that his free ice cream will be better.
Wow, there goes the nicest guy.
As Patrick embarks on his frozen dessert mission, things take a turn the moment Krabs gets a whiff of the coupon. So, Patrick trapped in a crane, and Krabs almost cons him into giving up the coupon in exchange for a handshake. Enter Squidward, unlikely hero of the day, who shuts down Krabs' scheme and frees Patrick. Believing everyone is out to steal his coupon, Patrick spirals into chaos. He gets stomped on, attacked by toddlers, and eventually falls off a cliff into what he thinks is ice cream land, but there's a catch. Yep, the coupon is expired.
Oh, this coupon's out of date. Expired 2 years ago. Sorry, we can't honor it.
Cue Patrick's meltdown, which gets him kicked out by an ice cream employee who sends him on a quest to meet the Ice Cream King. The Ice Cream King, as it turns out, is just as clueless and absurd as Patrick. They even look similar. The guy doesn't even know the year. To redeem the coupon, Patrick has to beat the king in a series of bizarre contests. Patrick somehow emerges victorious, and the king honors the coupon by scooping hairy chocolate ice cream out of his armpit.
One free ice cream cone!
Gross. Patrick returns to SpongeBob with his prize, which has sadly melted, so he offers SpongeBob a hearty handshake using Mr. Krabs' arm. Don't ask. But SpongeBob saves the day with a surprise sundae he picked up, and the two friends share a peaceful ice cream moment as the madness finally comes to an end. Crimes committed? Theft. Patrick's attempt to redeem the expired coupon for free ice cream could technically count as theft if he had succeeded. Fines $500 to $2,500. Fraud. Using an expired or potentially fake coupon definitely falls under fraud. This could carry fines of $1,000 to $5,000 depending on how seriously Bikini Bottom's legal system takes dessert-related offenses. Disturbing the peace. Patrick's meltdown at the park, combined with his general chaos around town, could easily earn him another $500 to $2,500 in fines. Patrick's determination to honor his coupon is admirable, in a chaotic, nonsensical way, but after the cliff-diving, tantrum-throwing, and contest-winning antics, maybe next time he should just pay for the ice cream. We've seen Patrick's antics wreak havoc, but in House Fancy, Squidward's envy-fueled meltdown proves he's just as capable of crossing the line and dragging his poor house along for the ride. Squidward's nightmare begins with a relaxing evening of House Fancy, where he hopes to drool over upscale homes and forget about his own sad little box. But nope, his peace is shattered when Squilliam Fancyson calls just to flex.
You wouldn't happen to be watching House Fancy, would you?
Turns out Squilliam's the featured guest on House Fancy, showcasing his ridiculous mansion filled with golden toilets, rooftop gardens, and a literal unibrow statue made of gilded doorknobs. It's bloody ridiculous to say the least. As Squidward seethes with jealousy, he makes the ultimate rookie mistake. And just like that, Squidward is doomed. Enter Spongebob. Well, more like creepy stalker Spongebob, who's been watching Squidward watch TV. Don't ask. With Spongebob's help and Patrick's absent brain on loan to Spongebob in exchange for chocolate bars because, duh, everything quickly spirals into chaos. Every task Squidward assigns Spongebob ends in calamity. So Squidward ends up with an injured foot and a living toilet that crawls out of the bathroom, traumatized beyond repair thanks to Patrick's unspeakable crimes.
Have mercy on my soul.
The situation culminates in a spectacular explosion that levels Squidward's house, leaving nothing but rubble. And yet, miraculously, this turns out to be Squidward's big break. Squidward is crowned House Fancy Prince of the Year and gets a special episode dedicated to his innovative home design, leaving Squilliam crying like a baby on the floor. Meanwhile, Spongebob tries to comfort Squilliam with unsolicited decorating advice because he just can't help himself. Crimes committed, destruction of property. Between the vacuum rampage, the exploding house, and the poor sentient toilet, Squidward and Spongebob cause major damage. Estimated fines, $1,000 to $5,000 for Squidward and Spongebob's shared mess. Trespassing. SpongeBob sneaks into Squidward's house uninvited, again. That's $100 to $500 right there. Harassment. SpongeBob's helpful antics are a textbook case of harassment with potential fines up to $2,500. Disturbing the peace. Between the explosion and Patrick's bathroom crimes, they've disrupted the entire neighborhood. Fines, another $500 to $2,500. Final verdict, Squidward might have accidentally landed himself a win, but his house is destroyed and he's now the poster child for abstract home decor. And SpongeBob proves once again that his version of help is Bikini Bottom's version of natural disaster. Squidward's obsession with House Fancy might have been petty, but Flats the Flounder takes crossing the line to a whole new level. In The Bully, he doesn't just blur the line, he smashes it with threats of physical violence against SpongeBob. Boating school starts off pretty chill until Mrs. Puff drops a bombshell. A new student is joining the class. Enter Flats the Flounder, a hulking slab of bad intentions who announces with zero hesitation. At first, SpongeBob brushes it off with his usual clueless optimism, but Flats' death glare and menacing tone quickly shut that down.
Hi, SpongeBob. I'm gonna kick your butt.
Turns out Flats is dead serious about his butt-kicking agenda, and SpongeBob spirals into full-blown paranoia mode. Desperate for help, SpongeBob turns to Patrick, but guess what? Patrick and Flats go way back, and Patrick's no help at all. Shocking, I know. Next, SpongeBob tries Mrs. Puff, who dismisses Flats' threats with the wildest misinterpretation ever. With nowhere left to turn, SpongeBob tracks down Flats' dad, hoping for some parental intervention. But plot twist, Flats casually threatens his own dad.
Now he's gonna kick my butt!
The fish looks genuinely terrified, proving that even family ties mean nothing to this butt-kicking machine. Our Spongy Boy, realizing he's on his own, makes a break for it, kicking off a town-wide game of SpongeBob Dodgeball. But karma works fast in Bikini Bottom. Flats slips on a banana peel, flips the truck, and lands in the hospital. You'd think saving Flats' life with 5 straight hours of CPR would earn SpongeBob a free pass, right? Nope. The second Flats wakes up, he's back on his mission. Rest in peace, that old man at the bus stop. How many lessons does he need to learn? The chase finally ends at SpongeBob's house, where Flats corners him and starts throwing punches. Also, Gary pulls out a camera to catch the action. But here's the twist. My dude Flats punches nonstop for an entire week, and nada. SpongeBob just absorbs it until his bully collapses from exhaustion. SpongeBob's classmates cheer for him like he's some underdog hero of a boxing match, but our Spongy Boy tries to take the moral high ground, delivering an anti-violence speech while awkwardly clenching his fist, and that's when Mrs. Puff makes her untimely entrance. Crimes committed. Assault. Flats spends the entire episode physically attacking and threatening SpongeBob. Estimated fines, $1,000 to $5,000. Harassment. His relentless pursuit of SpongeBob makes this textbook harassment. Fines could climb up to $2,500. Disturbing the peace. Flats' chaos disrupts the entire town. Fines range from $500 to $2,500. Flats' rampage cost him his dignity and possibly his reputation as a flounder with functioning brain cells. SpongeBob may have won, but Mrs. Puff's misunderstanding sets him up for round 2 in this never-ending cycle of Bikini Bottom madness. Flats made SpongeBob afraid to walk down the street, but in Boating Buddies, Squidward turns up the heat by invading his personal space and making every moment an exercise in discomfort. It's another serene day in Bikini Bottom, until Squidward's breathing sends SpongeBob into full investigative mode. Like the sponge version of Sherlock Holmes, minus the deductive skills, SpongeBob tracks the sound only to discover it's just Squidward existing. SpongeBob is like glitter. Once he's there, he's impossible to get rid of. In a desperate bid for freedom, Squidward flees to his boat only to realize SpongeBob has followed him. Why? To return Squidward's car keys. Yes, SpongeBob saw him drop them because, duh, he's been watching him the whole time.
You left your keys on the table back there.
So Squidward's landed himself a one-way ticket to Mrs. Puff's boating school to clean up his driving record. Life 1, Squidward 0. When Squidward steps into class and sees SpongeBob sitting there grinning ear to ear, he literally starts crying. Mood. To make matters worse, Mrs. Puff pairs them as seatmates. While Squidward explains his situation to the class, SpongeBob breathes so heavily you'd think he's auditioning for a slasher movie. Yeah, nobody in this school seems fond of our favorite sponge. Get the hint, SpongeBob. Then comes SpongeBob's chalkboard masterpiece, a picture of the two of them labeled Best Boating Buddies Forever. It's the artistic equivalent of Squidward's personal hellscape. Lunchtime rolls around and Squidward attempts to eat anywhere SpongeBob isn't, finally retreating to the bathroom. But his alone time is interrupted by what he thinks are SpongeBob's shoes. So now to make matters worse, Mrs. Puff assigns Squidward to a driving test with SpongeBob at the wheel. Predictably, this goes about as well as a dolphin trying to roller skate. SpongeBob drives like he's in a demolition derby, crashing into a research lab and shrinking everyone in the process. While SpongeBob and Mrs. Puff wind up in a fountain, Squidward gets flushed down the drain and ends up in the lab's bathroom, earning yet another off-screen beating from the same tough guy.
I was just leaving.
Who knew Squidward could be the MVP of slapstick comedy? By the time the written test rolls around, Squidward is barely holding it together, literally because his hands are so bandaged he can't even pick up a pencil. He reluctantly asks SpongeBob for help, but SpongeBob celebrates like it's a national holiday, but the clock runs out before Squidward finishes the test. Mrs. Puff delivers the final blow. Squidward has to retake the test next week. Oh, and guess who else failed and will be there too? SpongeBob, of course. The episode ends with Squidward's soul-shattering scream echoing through Bikini Bottom. Crimes committed: assault. Squidward's off-screen beatdowns, while deservedly funny, technically fall under assault. Those punches don't come free. Negligent endangerment. SpongeBob's reckless driving nearly destroys a research lab and leads to several unwilling shrinkings. Disturbing the peace. Between screaming fits, crashes, and SpongeBob's incessant helpfulness, Bikini Bottom's tranquility is in shambles. Possible sentences. Assault. The tough guy could face fines between $1,000 and $5,000, plus maybe an anger management course. Negligent endangerment. SpongeBob's driving rampage could land him fines up to $2,500, plus a lifetime ban on boats. Disturbing the peace. Both Squidward and SpongeBob might get hit with fines ranging from $500 to $2,500 for their collective chaos. In the end, Squidward learns the ultimate Bikini Bottom truth. There's There's no escape from SpongeBob, and every attempt to reclaim his dignity only leads to more suffering. In this episode, a harmless bubble-blowing contest spirals into betrayal, bruised feelings, and way too much chaos. Let's dive into Naughty Nautical Neighbors. It's a perfectly average day in Bikini Bottom, and Squidward has whipped up a souffle so fancy it screams, "Treat yourself." But just as he's about to bask in his culinary brilliance, turns out the dynamic duo has discovered the ancient art of bubble communication, whispering messages into bubbles that magically pop into someone's ear. It's like text messaging, but way more bloody annoying.
Hey, SpongeBob.
Squidward can't let them have their fun. With the brilliance of a sitcom villain, he whips up his own bubbles using souffle scraps of all things, and starts sending insults disguised as messages from the other. Squidward's bubble whisper campaign works like a charm, or maybe more accurately a curse, and soon SpongeBob and Patrick are at each other's throats. They end their friendship in a storm of hurt feelings and storm off to their homes. Squidward, meanwhile, munches on his souffle, reveling in his genius like a squid who's just pulled off the perfect prank. But peace and quiet? Yeah, that's not on the menu. Squidward escalates his plan to Phase 2, involving Patrick and his scheme to lure SpongeBob to his house. Unfortunately, mid-scheme, Squidward manages to choke on his fork. Patrick saves him with CPR, and in the ultimate betrayal, Squidward thanks him by pretending to be his new friend. He even busts out his clarinet to serenade Patrick into unconsciousness. Yeah, it's a super effective move. This sets the stage for Phase 3, dragging Patrick's snoozing body out of the house to complete his master plan. Meanwhile, SpongeBob has hit rock bottom. Yeah, it's pretty bleak for our spongy boy. When Squidward's cries for help reach SpongeBob, the sponge seizes his chance to be a hero. Squidward's thrown out back gets the SpongeBob chiropractic special, a bone-cracking leap that miraculously works. Squidward thanks SpongeBob and accidentally calls him friend, sealing his fate as SpongeBob's new bestie. Congrats, Squidward, you played yourself. Back at Squidward's house, things spiral into chaos. SpongeBob and Patrick's petty rivalry explodes into another fight after Patrick wakes up mid-SpongeBob cello solo. In the crossfire, SpongeBob smashes Squidward's instrument in a fit of rage. Squidward boots both of them out, hoping for some me time in a bubble bath. But surprise! SpongeBob shows up, and the two start arguing again. This is the last bloody straw for Squidward, who flees his own home and hides in a trash can. Reflecting on his life choices, Squidward decides the only way to fix this disaster is to reunite SpongeBob and Patrick. A bold strategy, buddy. Cue the ill-fated dinner party. You get the gist, these two are insufferable. By the time Squidward runs out of soda and leaves to grab more, SpongeBob and Patrick are so bloated they look like parade balloons. Then, one tiny burp bubble pops and suddenly they're laughing and bubbling up a storm. Their friendship is repaired, but Squidward's house pays the price. When Squidward returns, he finds his house obliterated. SpongeBob and Patrick are back to their usual antics, while Squidward's back is wrecked again by a falling door. The episode ends with Squidward lying in the rubble, his dream of peace and quiet buried alongside his souffle. Crimes committed, disturbing the peace. SpongeBob and Patrick's bubble-based chaos, noise complaints waiting to happen. Destruction of property. Between the bubble explosions and soda-fueled demolition derby, Squidward's house takes a beating. Harassment. Squidward's manipulation campaign definitely qualifies as emotional harassment. It's SpongeBob's favorite holiday, but for Squidward, it's his worst nightmare. Welcome to Fools in April. It's April Fool's Day, baby, and SpongeBob wakes up like a kid on Christmas morning. He's practically vibrating with joy because, of course, this is his favorite holiday. And who wouldn't love a day filled with tricks and pranks? Squidward, that's who. But, surprise, surprise, there's no art collector and no sympathy, just SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs cackling like it's an episode of Prank Wars. Squidward, humiliated and already regretting this prank-filled holiday, tries to quit his job but gets sweet-talked back into it by SpongeBob.
No more jokes on you today, I promise.
So SpongeBob's still pulling pranks on everyone else inside the Krusty Krab, just not old Squiddy Boy. And the worst part? The customers love it. They laugh, they joke, they encourage him. Meanwhile, Squidward's seething like a pressure cooker, barely able to stomach the noise. As SpongeBob pranks with no hesitation, Squidward gets more frustrated, even as the pranks stay harmless. But when SpongeBob's tongue literally falls off, Squidward's internal rage reaches its boiling point. He needs to show SpongeBob what a real prank is, and boy does he go all out. But wait, SpongeBob's not laughing. Nope, he's running out of there crying like someone just stole his last Krabby Patty. Squidward, confused and unrepentant, tries to call him back, but it's too damn late. The customers are furious. They're appalled by the prank and start storming out of the restaurant. And for the first time ever, Squidward begins to realize that maybe, just maybe, his idea of a joke is a little off. His prank wasn't playful, it was mean-spirited and cruel, and it didn't bring anyone joy. Squidward, now overwhelmed with guilt, tries to make things right. He goes to SpongeBob House where the apology tour begins. He tries every method: bad clarinet playing, an apology note in a bottle that SpongeBob can't open,
Aren't you gonna open it?
I can't. I don't have a bottle opener.
and even a tin can string phone that Patrick hilariously misuses as dental floss. Finally, Squidward tries the bubble method, hoping that somehow SpongeBob will hear his heartfelt apology. He walks away thinking he's done enough, but the guilt eats at him, my dudes. He can't stop thinking about what he did. Finally, Squidward breaks. He rushes back to SpongeBob's house where he fumbles his way through the most awkward apology ever.
Didn't mean to hurt you. In fact, SpongeBob, I like you.
But just as Squidward thinks he's safe, April Fools! Everyone's been in on it the whole time. Crimes committed! Assault indirect. SpongeBob's pranks, while intended to be harmless, cause emotional distress to Squidward. Though there's no direct physical harm, the emotional toll could be seen as an indirect assault. Harassment. SpongeBob's relentless pranking of Squidward, despite Squidward clearly not enjoying it, could qualify as harassment. It creates a hostile and uncomfortable environment for Squidward, who doesn't ask for these jokes. Disturbing the peace. SpongeBob's pranks disrupt the calm, quiet, and most serious atmosphere of Bikini Bottom. Squidward's spiraling mental state and the commotion in the Krusty Krab could be seen as disturbing the peace, especially when it affects the paying customers. Disturbing the peace. The chaos caused in Bikini Bottom could result in fines ranging from $500 to $2,500 depending on the level of disruption. Vandalism. Damages caused by SpongeBob's pranks could result in fines up to $3,000 for repairs and restitution. So yeah, the fish people of Bikini Bottom are pretty much a bunch of felons. But hey, I'm just a guy who likes cartoons. Catch you in the next video!